Well, it's hard to believe, but it's been a little more than a week now since Walter Scott was shot and killed in North Charleston, and now a police officer is charged with his murder, and Scott has been laid to rest. A day filled with tears and hugs as family and friends prepared to say farewell, watching Scott's flag-draped casket wheeled into Word Ministries Christian Center for that service. Scott was shot and killed by Officer Michael Slager last Saturday. He had been pulled over for a broken taillight and ended up running off. Officer Slager ran after him. And we do have that cell phone video for you. You hear what sounds like 8 shots fired at Scott's back. Well, now this video is the center of a very heated investigation. And of course, Officer Slager is facing charges of murder and has been fired. Now, once again, this brings up some big issues facing communities all over the country. Police brutality, how police interact with the community, and specifically how police officers interact with minority communities. Our friend Clairvaux joins us now with former State Representative Bakari Sellers, who spent time in North Charleston last week. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Brett. Thank you so much for that. Representative Sellers, former Representative Sellers, talk to us about that. Spending time in North Charleston, what did you see? What was the atmosphere like?
Well, I can honestly say that not many people were surprised. Not many people were surprised that this happened. Our hearts do ache for the Scott family, but this quest for justice is not over. And what we understand in South Carolina is many times we do get an officer fired when actions like this occur. Officers do get arrested and indicted, but we've had 0 convictions of officers who use deadly force in an inappropriate fashion. So this is about the follow-through of justice. And I think that people in Charleston, people in North Charleston and in South Carolina are thirsting to see that follow through.
You know, many people are looking at what happened in North Charleston. They're saying it's not the same as Ferguson, as we should say, the violent protests that occurred. Yeah. Why do you think that?
Well, one, South Carolina is a culture that's rooted in struggle. And again, this isn't anything new. And for us, when we were down in North Charleston this week, it was peaceful because of the fact that the family was rooted in so much faith. That they wanted us to abide by that same faith and remain steadfast in our convictions. This is different from Ferguson. This is different from Eric Gardner in New York, in that we've actually had an arrest made. We've actually had the firing of the officer. So again, this is about African Americans and minorities and everyone in between to actually register to vote, actually show up for jury duty, and do the things necessary so that we can have that follow through for justice.
Well, you know, the question of body cameras is going to come up this week at the State House, and we've talked about it, we've heard about it. As a former state lawmaker, what's the process? Do you believe it will pass?
Well, after being in the State House for 8 years, I'm a little bit jaded by reality. And I think that there are a lot of obstacles, some that may be too big to overcome to pass body cameras. I'm in favor of it. I'm a proponent of it. I think not only should we have body cameras, but I think that the Attorney General's office, and I hope Alan Wilson is watching this morning, but I hope that his office designates a specific individual as an independent investigator or arbitrator of all incidents involving felonious police action or misconduct. I think that has to happen. But back to body cameras, I'm not sure that body cameras are a panacea. I'm not sure that they would have stopped what would have happened, but maybe Officer Slager would have hesitated to act. And maybe Walter Scott would still be here today. You
know, as an attorney, many people are trying to figure out, okay, we have this camera, there's no way that he can make a defense, but he's hired an attorney. Well, as an attorney, what could his defense be?
Not only that, but you know, from 1968 in the Orangeburg Massacre, where my father was shot and 27 others were wounded and 3 were killed, Henry Smith, Samuel Hammond, and Delano Middleton, to North Augusta, South Carolina, where just last week we had another officer arrested for shooting into a vehicle, to Officer Slager. To what happened here in Richland County. Again, I go back and tell you, we have not had any convictions in South Carolina of officers who've been using this deadly force. So that's a reality. Here you have an incident where you have a gap of time in between the video where the individual ran and where it picked up. For me, it looks like murder. For me, it looks like Officer Slager was on a deer hunt. For me, it looks like Officer Slager saw Walter Scott as something less than a human being. And so for me, that's callous, that's murder. But when you get a jury of 12, when you get individuals who don't show up to jury duty, when you get people who forget about incidents that happened in their own community a year later, anything can happen. And so we have to keep our finger on the pulse. We have to keep our eyes on the prize. And this justice requires follow through.
Wow. Bakari Sellers, thank you so much for being here this morning. Really do appreciate
Thank you for having
your expertise. Absolutely. Stay with us, folks. There's more Good Day Columbia coming up right after this.